So to summarize very concisely, there are three main drivers of deforestation here in the tropics and subtropics, and one big overarching cause. So the big overarching cause is demand. And the demand is coming mostly from the global north. Okay, so the countries of Western Europe, Canada, the United States, and now to a large extent China are exerting huge pressure on the global south to provide its food. As the global north continues to become not just industrialized, but also much more like technologically, everyone's living in technology. No one is growing food. Most of the farmland across Europe and the United States is growing mostly commodity crops. So it's not really producing its own food anymore. So it's really leaning very heavily on the global south to produce that food. Also timber, rubber, building materials, luxury crops like cocoa beans and sugar and coffee. It's all coming out of the global south. A lot of people might not realize, but just to back up this point, is that forests in the global north are actually coming back. Large areas across northern and western Europe, across the United States and Canada and even China are reforesting because they're able to exert that pressure on farmers here in the global south to provide the food. So that's the big overarching cause, is the demand, and unfortunately the commodities market, which is the way that demand is exercised on the global south, is such an unjust structure. It's so unfair in the low prices that it pays for food, for the thing that actually keeps us alive, that farmers here in the global south, a lot of times they have no choice except to try to increase their output. So if you're getting paid like 3 cents for a bundle of oil palm seeds, or 40 cents per pound of raw cacao, your only choice to try to make any money is just to try to increase your output as much as possible. So to the farmer, it's like, my only solution is to go into the forest and cut it down and plant more of this in-demand crop, or to put the cattle on the land to fulfill the demand for dairy and for meat. So that's the big overarching cause, is really the demand and the commodities market, how it's exercised being exerted here on the farmers and on the land in the global south. Now, three specific drivers that agroforestry really, really has the potential to become solutions for these three drivers. So number one, I think most people know cows, like big problem. Cows in the humid tropics and subtropics, major cause of deforestation. And it happens in two ways. This is very important. So sometimes the land is cleared specifically to put cattle on it. I'm going to clear this land to put a pasture, to put cows. That's the purpose. Many times land is cleared already. The logging companies want the wood. That's the main driver. So logging companies come in, they want the wood, and then they auction off the lands to the guys who cut down the trees, the lumberjacks, very cheaply. And they say, okay, well, this land, it's bare, it's already going to start eroding. It doesn't really have very much value now. So the easiest thing you guys can do is just plant this grass seed that we're subsidizing, and then put cows on it. It seems like an easy solution, but cows in the tropics and subtropics, they don't do very well. They get a lot of internal and external parasites. They're very thin here. They really suffer in the humid climate. Just think about it, people. There were no cows in the rainforest before European contact. There weren't even any large grass-eating herbivores because there was no grass. So it doesn't make any sense to put cows here and think that it's the cows are going to be happy, or that they're going to be productive of dairy or meat. Okay. People do eke out a living doing it. I'm not saying that they don't, but it's very unusual to find a wealthy dairy farmer here in Ecuador's cloud forest. Okay. Second cause is monoculture farming. So land cleared specifically to plant a crop like oil palm, palm heart, to soybeans, to a lesser extent, cacao, known as cocoa in the global north, sugar, bananas, things like that. Monoculture farming, huge driver of deforestation as well. In far second place to cattle, actually, but it's still a big driver. And then the third cause a lot of people might not be aware of is simply speculation and bad decision making. So many times a farmer will have land like this. This is an area behind me that is rewilding, naturally regenerating. And as you can see, there's no real true trees on it. There's no timber to take out. So, and in the eyes of the farmer, it doesn't really have a lot of value. Now, it has natural value, right? It's got ecosystem services value. I hate that phrase. Does anybody else hate the phrase ecosystem services? But it's got that power of nature. It's providing benefits in that biodiversity is increasing over time. It's creating rain. It's filtering soil. But in the eyes of the farmer, which is very important because people need to eat and people need to live. We need to address those needs of people. In the eyes of the farmer, it doesn't have very much value. So ironically, to make it look more valuable, the landowner will cut all this down and then say, hey, buy my land. I already did the hard work. I already cleaned it up for you. I already cleared it out. Ironically, yeah, to create value, they take out the natural value of the land to try to make it look like it has some economic value. And then sometimes farmers are just really broke, and they'll just come in here and cut down all of these stick pioneers that aren't really producing anything for fence posts or pulpwood, etc. So that's another big driver. A lot of times when land is deforested, it doesn't become productive. It just gets cleared out, lies fallow for about 6 to 8 years, regenerates a little bit, and then is cleared out again. So the forest never really gets a chance to grow back. So agroforestry, I believe, has the potential to address all three of these drivers.